to recognize, of course, my two colleagues, Ron Trujillo from District 4 and my colleague from District 1, Councillor Lindell, and Steve Michaels, who's the Chief Counsel and Energy Program Director for Western Resource Advocates. We would have had Douglas Howe here. He may pop in. He's a former PRC commissioner, and he also is recommended to be our energy collaboration team member from the city side. So what you have some legislation we've handed out. We are going to attempt to follow a model that began in Minneapolis, and they were in a similar situation as we are here, where there was a lot of discussion out and about in the community from the municipal side and from some of the nonprofit sides that are advocates for energy and environmental issues to consider municipalization, and that topic has been brought up here in this community as well. And but what this effort here today is to really do something that we haven't done to date, which is to sit down face to face with our utility, really some higher ups. So there's a hope that we will sit down with after the council, of course, approves this. With both executives from the gas company and PNM. We have a commitment from PNM that Ron Darnell, one of their second senior vice presidents, will participate along with Ray Sandoval, their legislative liaison, and one unnamed member from New Mexico Gas Company. On the city side, we hope to have approved Steve Michael, as well as Doug Howe and Marcos Martinez. Is it Trujillo or Martinez? Martinez, sorry. Our utility attorney. And so a very small team is to come together. But first, the first plan, and again, following Minneapolis's model, is that they sat down, because we've passed a lot of resolutions and code changes and some really nice sounding language that said we really care about our community, our environment, our local environment, and the fact that climate change is taking its toll, and that we have to really rein in our greenhouse gas emissions and our carbon footprint. But what I will say is we've never really put it together with an action plan or a vision for how we're going to address those. And so following that model from Minneapolis, the first 60 days, this resolution calls for our staff, our sustainability staff and our energy staff, to work with our appointees for this energy collaboration team to come up with this unfortunate acronym of a CPAP, which is a Climate Protection Action Plan and an Energy Vision EP. And so that will be those will be the guiding documents for our energy team, which will also be appointed by this resolution, to really come up with action steps. As they did in Minneapolis, they came together and they're working on it still. It's really recent for them out there, and it was just this fall. And what they're going to do is sit down and really sit there and say, look, in 5 years, what can we achieve together? I mean, PNM is well aware that Santa Fe is not a happy customer. It's not one of their happy customers. And so we really would hope that we'll be able to sit down and say, in 5 years, we would like X percentage of our energy in this part of the sector that they serve to be from renewables, from XYZ sources, for instance. Or a passion of mine has been to try to get community solar, real community solar, not the blue sky light. They know I'm not a fan of the proposal they have put out, and I want real net metering. Blue sky isn't really doing much for the consumer. And so all of those issues we've delineated in this resolution, the topics that we can possibly consider. But let me just start by saying, I've been someone who is, I haven't always been a big fan of our big utilities in town and the approach they've taken, and nor has Mr. Michael over the years. We've all had to intervene at the PRC, but what we really have never had is a direct seat at the table with our utilities. We've kind of thrown rocks from the side to, or intervened at the PRC. I've gone as far as going over to the legislature to try to get some statewide changes, and it hasn't always netted what I would like to see in terms of how we address energy and the environment. And so from here, I have a commitment, starting at the top, the CEO of PNM, and the gas company is coming along with that as well. They're going to name someone, to really sit down and deliver something. And it's not, I've said to everyone, I don't want to waste anyone's time. This is not a PR scheme. This is truly to sit down and say, how can we collaborate and partner and try and actually achieve what we would like to see in this community with regard to energy and the environment. So I'm going to actually pass this off. I have some other sponsors. Chris Rivera couldn't be here. Doug Howe, the other member of the team, was unavailable today. And I've had good dialogue with Councillor Dominguez, but we've yet to really sit down and review the ordinance. I've been very careful to not have a rolling quorum. So I've really just assembled some of my advocates here today. I'm going to pass this over to Steve briefly, and as well the councillors.
Well, thanks, Patty. So I'm looking forward to participating in this. I think it's an opportunity. We'll see how it plays out. Hopefully, we'll be able to improve the energy mix that Santa Fe, that's used to serve Santa Fe in a way that maybe set some stages for further development in other communities as well. But certainly for Santa Fe, we can do better, and hopefully we'll be able to.
Thank you, Councillor Boucher. The appeal to me on this resolution is that it brings all parties to the table. We're sitting down together. We're looking for clarity of what we want. And most appealing to me also is that it is within a given time frame, 60 days. So the scope is clear. The parties are pretty clear of who will be sitting down, I think. And the other thing I think that's very appealing about this is that it's not asking for another long-term study that involves a lot of consultants and some money on the side of the city. This is something that we can do in a short amount of time with a lot of clarity. And I think that this is the work that we need to do right now before we jump into something that is years and years and years of process. So I hope that we can move this forward in a quick manner.
Let me just clarify one thing about the process. The first 60 days is with staff and our energy collaboration team to address our goals and our vision and the action plan. It's those documents that we will then have the full team, the utility side and the municipal side, sit down and actually see what we can achieve and delineate. So the negotiations or the crafting of the MOU does not take place until after we've set the guidelines up. And it's an opportunity for the city to actually focus in on all of our great thoughts about what we would like to do and see what we can actually achieve here on the ground with our local utilities. And so I wanted to be clear about that. And this is a working draft. We're going to build in some of the transparency and public input sections that have still yet to be added. So there's more to come, but the process is laid out pretty clearly.
Thank you, Councilor Shea. Well, I definitely support this resolution because, first and foremost, it starts the dialogue, something that we have not done yet. And where I'm hoping this, once we do this 60-day study, is I hope that we hear from the constituents of this community, because there's been a lot of talk about how Santa Fe wants to privatize, get all these utilities. We did it with the water company. Now we're looking at with the energy. I want the constituents of this community to weigh in on this. Is this really something that we want? Is this really something that the community wants? I think it's good that we're starting the dialogue, but this is my concern. Dealing with all these resolutions that are getting passed, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Let's talk to the constituents. The people of this community are the ones that use this energy. They should have a direction, because usually it's always the policymakers, the politicians that are making those decisions. We want our constituents, the city of Santa Fe, to weigh in on this as well. So as this starts going through the process, I hope that with all the dialogue that the newspapers, the media has, that we do get a lot of our constituents out here to come to these meetings, because it's imperative that we, as your representatives of the city, hear from you, so we know where you want Santa Fe to go. these next 20, 30, 50 years. So with that, Councilor Boucher, I do thank you for bringing forward this resolution, and look forward to the dialogue that transpires.
And absolutely, how Minneapolis addressed it is they had a board, and it was bigger and had politicians on it. I intentionally kept the politicians out of this mix. This is truly energy experts and utility experts sitting down to try and achieve something. And there was to be a representative from the neighborhood network here, the president, Marilyn Bain. There was an accident on the way with someone, so she could not be here. But there is, and how Minneapolis addressed it is they had their team and their board working on the nitty gritty, and then they had what they call community advisors, which is essentially the public and stakeholders, environmental groups, advocates. And so we'll work that out too as we address our energy vision and our action plan. We'll have a whole public segment that we can work into that. But I truly, I look forward to it, and I thank in advance Mr. Michael and as well Mr. Howe, who do this for a living, and they're going to lend us their expertise and really take on some hard issues. And I really look forward to some outcomes, and I have insisted upon a promise and a commitment from the top at the utility that this is not a show. This is really rolling up your sleeves and taking a look at how we can create something better for the Santa Fe area, but that would be a model. And I think PNM is well aware that they need to move off of coal. And I think what we could achieve here can really have some real positive effects for the rest of the state of New Mexico.